is Asher one more time coming to you, and I wanted to talk a little bit today about my take on what's going on in the world politically and all that. I used to be a big time news and political junkie. I would follow multiple news feeds of people. I would get involved in long arguments with friends, researching articles to prove I was right, finding the information that I knew was out there that disproved what certain people were saying. And as I started to do that more and more when I used to be on Facebook, uh, I was finding out that like I was all the stuff that these a lot of people were posting wasn't right. It was incorrect. I would just do simple research and figure it out like very quickly. And I started to realize that the levels of propaganda over time were rising so high that it was almost impossible to miss it, really. And sorry about my cigarette, but the bottom line was that something wasn't right, and that's like the thing in the Matrix that makes you start to take your journey and say something's wrong here. Like I don't know exactly what it is, but and that happened to me with 9/11 because I was so close to the building when it was falling down that I could hear the demolition charges going off. Pop, pop, pop. There were like 7 pops that went as the second building was falling. I didn't see the first plane hit. I saw the second plane hit from my job, and then I was working on 23rd Street then. So I walked all the way downtown to where I lived at the time, which is only like 11 blocks north on the west side. So I had a really good view of it, unfortunately. And I was close enough that I could hear the pops, and like I said, and people were running around saying there's people shooting at us, and I couldn't understand at the time why would they say that, and then later I realized because they heard the pops too, and they thought it was gunshots. That experience started me really down the whole rabbit hole thing of going down rabbit holes to see which of the conspiracy theories I could pretty much prove to myself were true or not true. And at first you start to do it, and in 2001 there wasn't a ton of information, of course, about the incident, but there was enough if you started to put all these random like puzzle pieces together, right? Like the fact that how did the engine fell out and it was found, and then the guy's passport somehow like is perfectly preserved and it's found in the street, and now we know it's this guy, right? It's little like things like that that when you're a very logically thinking person that you start to say something doesn't smell right. And there's certain types of people that as you get into the game more of yourself and growing, that your intuition grows so powerful that you can literally smell a lie coming at you from a mile away. You can just sense that something that you're being told is either right or wrong, just like that. There's almost no downtime to it now. And anyway, I knew that something about the 9/11 thing was all wrong, and that the way the building fell, so perfect, had to have been initiated as opposed to a plane crashed into it, because we know that a smaller DC-3 I think hit the Twin Towers years ago as well, and nothing like that happened, obviously, right? A smaller plane, but still. The real thing about 9/11, and I won't stay on it too long, but just the fact of the rabbit hole that proved that it wasn't real was the fact that the first tower with the big antenna on it, there was an explosion up there of such force that huge steel beams were impaled across West Street, which is like 6 lanes of traffic, I think, or 7, into the building on the other side with such force. So how can an explosion do that? You're talking about girders that weigh, tons, right? Blown across West Side Highway, which is a huge road. Uh, that would take a humongous amount of force to generate, and that's no way that a plane did that. There's just no way. There was some type of explosion in that area that did that, and that's been basically proven if you read all the different documentaries and literature, the NIST report, and all these things. Engineers for 9/11 Truth have proven the fact that the building was initiated. So it's just a matter of time. My point is that as I started to go down a lot of these other rabbit holes, almost all of them are real. They're true. They're not a rabbit hole. They're an actual thing that's, been labeled a conspiracy so that you won't go look into it. And if you do, you're labeled a conspiracy theorist by your friends, so you don't want to do it, right? You don't want to be that guy. And I never cared if I was that guy, because I always just wanted to know. I wanted to know who killed Kennedy. I wanted to know all the secrets of that we've been, grown up with, and what's going on. Where are the aliens? Are they here? Why can't we see them? What species are here? Uh, who lied to us in our government? What did Eisenhower warn us about with the military-industrial complex? What's that all about? I want to know who those people were. Who are the Illuminati? Who are, the Masons? What's the history of that? What's the history of the Black Pope? What's the history of the Jesuits? What's the history of all these things where there's secrets hidden in all of it? That if, and there's people way, way smarter than I am who have gone in and written books like The Creature from Jekyll Island, which is all about how the Federal Reserve was created. And there's been people like Jordan Maxwell and just amazingly talented people who can break down the mechanisms of control, right? Like maritime admiralty law, or the Federal Reserve, the IRS, all these institutions that are created as a form of control, which are supposed to help you, but they don't. And so I wanted to also include my walkaway story, my Democratic Party walkaway story, because I saw a lot of people doing that, and I wanted to explain why I walked away from the Democratic Party in 2016, because I literally went from one side to the other within that whole 2016 election. I started off as a very not happy person to have to vote for Hillary, didn't want to vote for her at all, couldn't stand her. And as Bernie's star started to rise, I started to say, well, maybe I'll listen to Bernie for a minute, because some of the things he was saying actually at first sounded like they might work, right? Of course, when I further looked into Bernie, I wasn't as impressed with him, let's just say that. But I was willing to vote for Bernie over Hillary in that race. Now, when it came to Trump versus Hillary, I was pretty much awake by that point, because I saw what happened to Sanders. But what I didn't realize at the time was that Sanders was a plant. He was in with them the whole time. And once I figured that part out, it wasn't that hard to vote for Trump, because I realized that he was the only person that we have a chance with. The other side was the one engineering our doom, basically, right? And I started listening to a lot of different people, and when the QAnon movement started, which was in 2017, I think I started in around December of that year. So I think Q had started like September-ish or something around there. I was like 2 months later, and I just became completely fascinated and convinced almost within the first, I'd say, 2 months, that Q was, not only were these people for real, whoever they were, but I could understand that it was a movement that was similar in its scope to the anonymous movement. In other words, it's a movement of people, and it's non-centralized, so you don't know who's controlling it, and you don't know who the members are, right? It's just sharing information, though. That's the thing. It's giving you little bits of bread, which they call crumbs, and you follow the crumbs where the information leads you. See, that's logical, empirical thought. So they're telling you, hey, look into this, use your empirical thought and knowledge and your intuition. Here's some information. Here's a lead on something. And you, through your own lead, wherever you go, whatever sites you choose to look into, articles you read, you make your own decision on if what QAnon is saying is true or he's leading you on. And every single time it was real. So I realized not only are these people real, this is a huge operation that is disseminating massive amounts of information, and there's no other way that you could do it except this way, because it would literally take you maybe days or hours to make this into like some kind of formatted movie that would last for days. That's how much criminal things have been done. that we don't even know. So, you know, as I went down more rabbit holes, I realized that we've been subjugated our whole lives, that we actually have been stuck in a system that's kept us enslaved. We've never been free. Uh, it's why the Statue of Liberty is called the Statue of Liberty, right? If you were free, wouldn't it be called the Statue of Freedom? Shouldn't it be called that? Why is it called the Statue of Liberty, right? What's liberty? Well, if you're a sailor on a ship, let's say in the Navy, and you get liberty, that means you get a certain amount of time to be free of the ship, right? You have liberty. But what happens at the end of your liberty? You have to go back. So are you free? No. You're on liberty, dude. They put you on liberty your whole life. And they turned you into an asset. Money. They dehumanized us. And then on top of it, they trade us like a stock with their powerful friends. So not only did they dehumanize you, they took your humanity away, your sovereignty away, but you just got all that back. That's the good news, because Trump won. If Trump hadn't have won, you would have lost your human sovereignty for the rest of your life, and worse would have happened to you. And some of us wouldn't have had much of a life after, because you would probably be targeted for removal in some way, right? So, I came full circle in the election. The election happened. I was shocked. I didn't see it coming. I thought it was a lot closer than the press was letting on, because when the Times said it was 95% Hillary's going to win, I knew that was fake, right? It's just statistically impossible. 95% of the people wouldn't vote for her. I mean, wouldn't 45 or 50% vote not for her? Right, so how could it be that she's a 95% shot? She really was only, what, a 50-50 at the best, or was it 40, maybe it was 40-60 from the beginning. We never even knew. We never got the real poll numbers, is my point. And that's what's happening again with the Biden race, right? Biden's not going to be there. I don't think he's the one. There's only two possibilities of what he's doing, right? He's either faking that he's really non-compos mentis, which is he doesn't have his full faculties, or he doesn't have his full faculties. I don't know what the answer to that is. Only he does, right? But my point is that he's going to be indicted on major crimes. So is Obama. And when I try to tell people in my family this, they have no idea what I'm talking about. I said, don't you realize that Obama's a traitor? He's going to be tried for treason and hung. And they don't even understand. They don't know. So I don't know what's going to happen. There's a certain amount of people that still aren't awake to what's the sort of enormity of what's going on. Or maybe they just don't want to wake up because they're realizing, like I did 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, that, yeah, I'm pissed off. These people fucked my life up on purpose and wanted to enslave me my whole life. And so I'd never really achieved the dreams that I wanted. I'd never be able to ascend to the place I wanted to be spiritually, for sure. And then on top of that, they were going to try to kill you early so you don't, have too many kids and clog up the earth with your brethren, right? I mean, that's who we're dealing with. We're dealing with a bunch of people that are eugenicists. That's what a eugenicist is. They want to put a cap on the world's humanity, right? As long as their families are all, they can have as many kids as they want. Just you can't. Understand? Your life is not worth the same as theirs. It's less in their view, right? You're less in their view. And so we're removing this whole system right now. And I try to explain to people that the Federal Reserve, in a sense, created a scam, right? They charged interest on money. Usury. It's illegal, right? The Bible says so. You're not supposed to do that, right? But that's what they did. So, but we didn't know that, did we? We didn't know they were stealing all our money from us all these years. So the point being is, if somebody commits a crime in your name, in a sense, that you didn't know, and they steal money from you, and you incur debts throughout your life in the system that they put in place, Well, that debt is null and void now. You don't have to pay it. It's null, right? Why is it null? Because it was created in the midst of a criminal act, which is what the Federal Reserve is. Stealing money out of the system of the United States and putting it into England. It's the scam. That's why the IRS was created. It's the skim, right? That's the same way that organized crime would deal with a casino, okay? They would take over a casino and then they would cook the books. There's two sets of books, the one I show to the IRS and the real books that I have. And I'm skimming money off of the top, and that's exactly what our government's basically been doing, but just on a way larger scale, right? You see all these inner cities where all these entitlement monies have been given, like New York, and they're begging for money now. Why? Because they stole it. All the money they were given, they were money laundering it and giving it back to their friends, and their friends were giving it to them. Okay? That's why New York is saying they don't have any money. That's why you have people living in tents in California. It's all could have been avoided. It's because these people are thieves. So, as people wake up to this shit, and they realize that both the parties were bought and sold their whole lives, and that the game was always controlled by a larger player that's in the background, you start to ask the question, well, who's in the background? How far up the chain does this go? Is it the 13 Illuminati families, the bloodlines, right? Is it just Rockefeller, Rothschild, Lee, all these others? Or is there, who's above that, though? There's another level to the chain, right? It goes further up. It's not just Bush. It goes beyond the Nazis that we let in Paperclip, right? Operation Paperclip. It's way beyond that. It's alien. So you're now on another level, right? It's not people problem anymore. It's an otherworldly problem. So that's where the whole story goes off the rails to most, and they can't figure the fuck out what's going on. Because not only is it these people fucking with you, but they're just minions of even more messed up people that have been tearing their way through the galaxies of other places for thousands of years. Okay, so you're just one in a long list of fucking worlds that these people have co-opted and screwed with and done stuff to. And it's not even as bad here as it is in some of the others that I've heard from and read about, if it's true. And I'm starting to believe it pretty much is, because of all the kids gone missing and all these other things that came together. And if you research all these alien races and you realize that somebody came down here at some point and sped our DNA process up, and there's all kinds of other stuff you can get into. And not to go further into too deep into all these rabbit holes, but the point being is that almost I can't find a rabbit hole I've gone down that isn't real, or that I don't think is real, except for Flat Earth, which I still can't figure that one out. But I'm about 50-50 either way on that. You know, did we go to space? All these different, there's so many of these things that they put out there, and I think part of the reason they do it is to distract you. And, you know, are some of them real? Yeah. Are some of them not real? Sure. The point is, you can lose years going down all these rabbit holes, and, you know, you got to pick and choose. My point is that the research I've done on most of them is that they are real. MK Ultra was real. Pizzagate was real. You know, the Kennedy story we were told is wrong. The single bullet theory was obviously wrong. You know, there's so much in our history that's wrong. And so we're going to, I think, be at a point soon where we're going to have to rewrite the whole history books and try to figure out the lies that they were told and figure out, you know, get the real history from whoever the people are that lived it before they die. Because, so that's it. You know, I just want to say that a lot of these rabbit holes are real. Use your intuition. Go and do research with sites and people you trust. And if you're not sure about something, then keep reading about it until you feel comfortable with the information that you think you know. And that's what I did with 9/11 and all the other stuff. And I was right almost every time because I did so much research that I get to a point where it's overwhelming that it's obvious that it's true, and then I stop. The stuff with the children, I had to stop early in because it's too upsetting. Uh, I researched the dumbs. I researched all this stuff is real. They're holding people in these dumbs. That's where all these people are disappearing to. There's trains that run in these dumbs. A lot of them in the United States are now destroyed, but these dumbs go all over the world. So there's a whole bunch of information, and who knows how much of it's going to come out. But if you want to know about it, it's out there. And the reason I walked away from the Democratic Party was real simple, because you could see right through what they're doing. It's not hard to see. They're using race baiting tactics. They're using agitation propaganda. And what agitation propaganda is, for those of you that don't know, is that every race they have it for, okay? They have it for black people, they have it for white people, they have it for Jewish people, they have it for Asian people, they have it for any race, any background, they have it for gay and LGBTQ. They have it for everybody, okay? And what it is a newspaper article will come out, and it's usually some racially motivated incident. A swastika was found written in a park. That's the Jewish one. Something with a swastika usually, right? And they have all other kinds, and you could easily see them if you just look in the news. They'll throw them in there every once in a while just to piss off another group, right? And in New York, they've been doing that to people for years. You can go all the way back to the incidents in the 90s in Brooklyn with the riots and stuff that happened there with the Yusuf Hawkins, I think it was. I forgot the gentleman's name. There's a whole bunch of incidents, if you go back in each city's history that you can find that are motivated this way. And they usually do it in an election year to stir up, and they're doing it right now. I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? Can't you see it? Look at how many cities that are controlled by Democrats are on fire or burning or being looted, or basically the police are being either told to stand down or they're slow rolling so that all this stuff is just allowed to happen, shootings. So, it's going to be crazy till the end of this election. There's a group of people that have never been out of power for probably over 60 years, and they want to stay there. And Trump is a direct threat to that power structure, and he's dismantling it. And so if you can't see that by now, I would suggest that you try to do some more research. Go to QAnon page, QAnon.pub, or any QAnon page that has the full QAnon postings, and read those over time at your leisure. And when you get to the end of it, you'll realize so much more. It will be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, all these things, and that Trump is on the right path, and that we are, we dodged a bullet with Hillary. That's all I could say about that. And I walked away, and it turned out I was right. So for all those people that didn't walk away, and maybe you're watching this, think about walking away from the Democratic Party. If you're not sure why, look up who created the KKK, and you'll find out that the KKK was actually created by the Democratic Party. So there's just one reason. And if you look at all the Jim Crow laws and things like that that were put forward in the South, those were all done by Democrats to dissuade, or usually sometimes even they did it with violence, African Americans from voting, right? This was done with violence for decades in the South, and that was done by Democrats who did not want to change a system that enriched them in a very, very large way, because they were allowed to own human beings and use them on large plantations as slave labor for until they died. So again, that's it. Do your research. The biggest con I think that ever was committed on mankind, and one of them, was that the Democratic Party somehow, with that history, could go forward into the 60s and the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s period and convince people of all different backgrounds that they were somehow the good guys and they had never been racist when their party was founded on those principles. You can go back and fucking look it up. It's right there. You can't fake who created it. It was created by people in the South. And at that time, they were Democrats. So go do your research about that. And I wish you well. And I know these are crazy times, but we're headed towards better days. That's what I feel. So stay up, keep your vibration high, and I'll speak with you soon. Thank you. Bye.